Hello and welcome to the Wedding Guide podcast. I'm your host, Pete the Celebrant, and we are proudly sponsored by Easy Weddings. Easy Weddings helps thousands of couples nail their big day every year. With their award-winning directory and mobile apps, you can find and book top-rated wedding suppliers. You can stay on track with their planning tools, or for a more hands-off approach, you can work with a wedding planner to save you time and money. And the best thing, it's free. So jump on to easyweddings.com.au to start your stress-free journey up the aisle today. And joining us for another episode is our good friend, Darcy Burch from Easy Weddings. Her role is to help plan your personal wedding. She's come today to give us some great practical advice when it comes to all things rescheduling because of COVID. Allow me to introduce you to the very knowledgeable Darcy Burch. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And back on the podcast is Darcy Burch. Darcy, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. I'm a regular visitor, so nice to be back once again.
It's great to have you here. Darcy, let's jump into this. Tell us, from an Easy Weddings perspective, where is the wedding industry at in Australia?
Sure. So, it's a bit crazy. Can't believe we're here in mid-October already. It does feel like 2021 has flown. But over the past couple of weeks, everything has really picked up Australia-wide. So at Easy Weddings here, being that we do sell Australia-wide, we're very fortunate that we've had access to, some states that haven't been as heavily affected as, say, Melbourne and Sydney. So they're literally running as per normal. So at this point in time, there's really only restrictions on weddings in the three major cities, Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane. So Brisbane, they're now sitting at a 1 per 2 square metre rule, capped at 200. So that's relatively normal. It's just potentially hindering some of the large weddings, but they're back on track after a very little lockdown a couple of weeks ago. Sydney is up and running. We're back doing site inspections as of Monday this week, so venue viewings are all happening and the wedding industry is definitely going bonanza in New South Wales. So that's very exciting. Our general advice for couples there is get something locked in before Christmas so that you can go into the new year feeling secure with your date and some of your key vendors and your venue secured. And then, 2022 can be a nice, easy progression into the rest of the wedding planning for you. And same things with Melbourne. We're starting to see some real traction and trends coming back to our industry, which is really exciting. So we're starting to take in-person viewings for Melbourne venues as of the last week of October. So heading in the right direction.
Definitely. And it is, for me, it's good to be mindful that weddings across Australia are actually still happening. It's just that right now, where my little pocket of the world of Melbourne, it's not, and it's Sydney, but Sydney can actually have some weddings. We're still at the place where we can't have any, but in a few weeks, things are slowly opening up. And as we were talking before, when we were talking about how we're both wearing maroon, we were talking about the fact that with weddings inquiries and everything, particularly in Melbourne and Sydney, are really starting to boost up again. So we, I guess, in the wedding industry here are starting to see all that, all the cogs are starting to turn once again. Everything's just, going well, or getting there. Yeah, which is, it's fantastic. So it's nice to see that while, yes, other areas in Australia, it's been going well. In the places where it's been a little bit touch and go, it's slowly, we're starting to see life come back into these old bones. Now, talking about weddings from this, I guess, from this COVID perspective of the wedding industry being, where it's at, for couples who are having to reschedule, and this might predominantly be for Sydney and Melbourne weddings, with helping couples reschedule, what should they keep in mind?
Sure. So, I think we're all relatively used to the idea of postponing and rescheduling now. It's been part of our normal lives for coming on 2 years now. But But there's lots of things to consider that, especially with a lot of your vendors, availability is the biggest issue at the moment. I know we all harp on about it, but it is true. 2022 is going to be the biggest year of weddings since 1984. Everyone knows it's coming, and it's going to be the year where not only are you getting potentially married yourself, but you'll be attending weddings, you'll be having to buy new outfits every week. Like, it's just going to be a year of big parties and lots of celebrations and a lot of things that have potentially been rescheduled for the last 2 years. So it's an exciting year, but keeping in mind availability will be very hard to come by. So we've talked about midweek weddings, we've talked about winter weddings and off-peak. The reality of the situation is no one has gone on a holiday for 2 years. We're all deprived. We all want time off work. So if we have to take a Thursday afternoon off to come and celebrate your love, we will. No one's going to hold it against you or think, how dare they have a Monday wedding? So keep that in mind. I think the most difficult part would be clients going in with the expectation that they're going to be able to get a Saturday night again at their preferred venue. It might be something that you'd need to reconsider, or you will realistically need to be looking at the end of 2023, if not even 2024. Forgive me for saying that, but that's realistically where it is right now.
Yep.
The biggest thing to think about is, a lot of your vendors, especially kind of hair and makeup artists, potentially celebrants, and some of the smaller elements to your wedding, it might actually be a part-time position for them, or what I like to call a side hustle. So potentially they're not actually available in the normal working hours of the day to take your phone calls and emails. I can actually speak to that myself. I do have my own side hustle. So most of my emailing is 6 a.m. in the morning or 7 p.m. at night. So a lot of my couples definitely hear from me after hours. So I guess in terms of how to go through that process, the best thing would be, there's some really great software programs out there doing polls and things like that, but very simply open an Excel spreadsheet, head to your venue or your area of choice, choose maybe 3 to 4 dates that they do have available, being that big ticket item and the central part of your big day. Pop them into a spreadsheet, put a column down for each vendor, and ask them to potentially put a tick or an X on the dates that they can or cannot do, so that you can realistically look at that sheet and see where the minimized risk is. So if you've got one column that you potentially have everyone with a tick, fantastic.
Yeah.
You might only be missing one, and realistically, we're always here to support in that instance where you need to find a replacement vendor. But I think the best way to go about it is to approach it as a group scenario. We're all a team. All of us vendors are going through exactly the same thing. So we're very used to the practice of filling in an Excel spreadsheet. I do highly recommend this rather than potentially picking up the phone and calling each individual vendor or sending an email to each individual. Do it as a team effort. Treat us like the dream team that we are. And I'm sure we'll be able to come to a fair agreement on the new date for you.
Yeah, I agree with that. And there is something nice, because obviously I've done, as all the other vendors have done, what feels like hundreds of reschedules now. And it is nice to get that sort of team feel when someone applies or is talking about rescheduling, and you see all the other vendors, side by side, and you can see them ticking their boxes. And that just makes you feel, like we're all in this together. And we're all trying to make sure that the couple are going to get the day they're after, and we can all do it for them, because this is the, if we want to call it the dream team, or this is the people and the vendors they've chosen originally, and we all still want to be there for them. So it is a nice way to view it as, how can we get the whole team there? And it will 100%. Save you time rather than asking individually and one by one.
Exactly. And you also don't know that, if the conversation is happening as a team and one of the vendors potentially can't be there for your new day, you don't know that your celebrant, Pete, might know a fantastic DJ that can replace the one that you can no longer have. As a team, you might not even have to go out to Easy Weddings or any of these vendor directories to find someone else. Your own team will, I'm sure, have plenty of recommendations for you.
Yeah. So what do you think it's most important to start with when rescheduling? Are we looking for a specific date? Are we looking at locking in any key or vendors, maybe the one that's the priciest? What should couples first look at to at least begin these steps?
Definitely. I think venues being the big ticket item and the central location of where the day will take place is the smartest place to start. I would potentially recommend against going to vendors and then trying to align it with your venue. I would probably start at that potential. Like I said, potentially grab 3 to 4 dates as a potential backup and work your way down. If you're not interested in doing that team Excel spreadsheet, I would, again, like what Pete just said, work your way back maybe from dollar wise backwards, but also potentially some of the vendors that can't facilitate more than 1 wedding per day, like a photographer. They can only realistically do 1 wedding per day, whereas a cake supplier, he or she might do 10. So their availability is very different to a photographer. Hair and makeup artist, they're booking out a lot, and the difficulties there is, pre-COVID world, we used to say book your hair and makeup artist maybe 6 to 8 months in advance. These days with COVID, they can only usually do 1 wedding a day as well. So they're fully booked. So people have the impression that things like potentially wedding cards and photo booths and maybe hair and makeup artists could be left towards the later half of the reschedule. But to be honest, I do see now with our world, I almost see importance around everyone, because we know as a whole, our industry is really strapped for availability. So the more people you can get onto at the one time, the better, which is why we highly, highly recommend treating it as a team exercise.
Yeah.
Invite everyone to a Facebook event from your vendors on Facebook.
Yeah.
Think of new ways to do it. Start a group message on WhatsApp.
Yep. So there's, I guess, looking from a practical how to do this. So we've mentioned the Excel spreadsheet. I think that Facebook group is actually makes a lot of sense. Pretty much all vendors up, at least advertising on Facebook, so that they're on there. Is there any other apps you've seen or any other websites that people have used?
Not really. I know you can definitely, there's some poll kind of software out there, but Facebook allows that type of technology now as well. WhatsApp, there's so many different ways of communication these days. Even just a group email. There's nothing wrong with emailing everyone in the same chain.
Yep.
Obviously you can be specific as to the information that you have, so it doesn't end up in a 36 unread messages conversation back and forth, but a very simple, hey guys, this is our new date, we'd love to hear from you if you're available.
Yep.
And vice versa, or if you're not. So I think any form of communication, but I would highly recommend against individually calling each and every one of your vendors, because the likelihood of you might get 4 phone calls into that conversation, or if the first 4 said yes and you're thinking, fantastic, we're on a run here, and then phone call number 5 comes, the DJ can't make it, and you're back to square one again. You've got to ring all of those 4 people again. Yeah.
I would say from my personal experience, I've had a few different ones, and I think a lot of couples will just say, hey, can you send us all your available weekends, and what I do is normally just send them the list I'm actually already booked, and so then I'll say, here's when I'm booked, but feel free to ask me around the times. But again, that's specific to what I do. If you're talking to a band, if you're talking to the DJ, it's going to look different as well. And if you're talking to a venue, well, of course, once you book there, it's normally out. I'd find as well, yes, I've had a few bulk emails, but like with group emails. I've had one poll sent through doodle.com poll, and that seemed, I don't know how hard it was to put together, but it seemed really effective because I could see who was able to log into the days as well. And it really seems like that, yes, Friday, but particularly like that Sunday was more available, and particularly the Thursday as well. So if you're really struggling to look for days, I wouldn't say give up on the Saturday unless you're really willing to push the wedding back. But I guess just know that if you're going to be like, no, it has to be a Saturday, cool. Probably be prepared that you might lose some. And in doing that, you might be losing deposits as well. And did you want to say anything to that, Darcy?
Sure, I couldn't agree more, and that's something to definitely be mindful of. So when you are rescheduling, if you do choose to go ahead with a new date that potentially 1, 2, 3, 7 vendors aren't able to do, realistically, you may be forfeiting that original booking fee or initial deposit. The reality of the situation is you may not get those funds back. So something to consider, is there some vendors that you really can't go without? Do you have someone in mind as a potential replacement? And are you willing to forego those funds that you've already paid for?
Yeah. Now with Easy Weddings, how are they helping couples reschedule?
Yes, so with us, obviously, we have our planning team here. So we have our team of venue specialists and also our team of supply specialists. So in terms of the venue specialists, if you have originally booked your venue with us, we're more than happy to facilitate in that rescheduling and finding out available dates. But we are also chatting to a lot of couples who potentially, unfortunately, aren't able to get a date of their preference at the original venue, or perhaps they've decided, what, the wedding we booked 2 years ago really isn't the style that we're after anymore. We want to do something stripped back. We want to do something more casual. So we are assisting a lot of couples at the moment with finding a potential new venue. So the benefit of that is that realistically you're speaking with one main point of contact. So let's say you're speaking with myself and we're trying to find a replacement venue for you here in Melbourne for 40 guests. You have to have a view. It has to be seated with a dance floor and a ceremony on site. So I can then recommend to you maybe 5 or 6 fantastic venues that are going to fit the realm of that. And rather than having to reach out to all 5 or 6 venues individually, I can actually confirm the availability for you, send all the information, produce a quote and book a site tour for you once we're available, potentially a virtual tour. So help to streamline that process for our couples to make it as seamless and stress-free as possible.
Yeah.
So from the venue side of things, we can definitely help with finding a new venue, or also potentially rescheduling the one that you've already booked prior with us. But we're always here to offer general advice and wedding etiquette to anyone in their wedding planning phase. You can always ring our direct general line and have a chat to one of the planning team about kind of your reservations around COVID and any kind of general planning advice or questions that you need. We have the app with some amazing tools, suggestions, tips and tricks, the budget calculator in there, the style quiz. There's a lot of tech on the Easy Weddings website as well, not only just the app. So always feel free to check out some great articles. Our content writers spend days and days every week coming up with new and inventive articles and blog features to keep you guys entertained and engaged. The other thing with that is our supply specialist. So as you're all aware, we do fantastic Easy Wedding supply packages. So we bundle up a range of different photographers, videographers, bands, DJs, hair and makeup, the works. So the benefit of those packages is you actually have a dedicated Easy Weddings planning expert. So in the event of actually having to reschedule that date, you don't have to do a thing. We actually do the whole thing for you. So as you can imagine, the couples that have booked with us over the last 24 months that are potentially having to reschedule at this point in time, our team is actually doing that. So they will have a chat to you about the new dates and availability. They'll then reach out to the team of 5, 7, 9, 12 different vendors and actually facilitate that whole process and come back to you with the brand new date delivered on a platter, and you can sit back there and enjoy the wine and you don't have to worry about a thing.
That's so good. And I think for all the couples who are having to or have done their own rescheduling, just wishing, oh man, we should have just got Easy Weddings to help us in the first place, because it would have made things so much easier. Cool.
Yeah,
hey,
look, there's some regrets there, but we're always happy to take on a new Lone Ranger. Come on board.
Yeah. And hey, if you're a new couple here and you're just starting the process and starting to look at your vendors to get married, give Darcy a call, just have a chat and just see that one of their packages might be right for you. Cool. Well, Darcy, thank you so much. That's a lot of practical advice for couples in their rescheduling. So thank you for all that. We'll make sure we put all the contact details to get in contact with Easy Weddings and to chat with them about how they can help you plan their wedding. And there are so many different ways, whether it be looking at different vendors' pages, all the way to they can bundle everything up and say, here is a fantastic day. So that's great. Darcy, thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up?
No, I think you've covered it all. As always, we're here to support. We love hearing from couples every day and helping you on your planning journey, whether that's from the very, very beginning, you haven't even got the ring yet, or right through to the end. And, you just need that last piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, Darcy, thank you so much for coming and joining us once again. And everyone, make sure you go check out easyweddings.com.au. And thank you once again for joining us. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Cause no